Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As Rylan navigated the hotel hallway, his breathing echoed off the plush carpets, amplifying his frustration. He had anticipated a seamless transition from airport to accommodation, yet the universe seemed to conspire against him. Inside the room, he tugged at the zipper of his suitcase, which gave way abruptly, sending an explosion of clothes onto the pristine floor. With a sigh of resignation, he crouched to reclaim his scattered garments. It was supposed to be a straightforward business trip, but the universe had other plans, commencing with flight delays and climaxing in the revelation of dubious stains in the rental car. Just as he forced the last shirt back into the bulging suitcase, rapid knocks reverberated through the room, startling Rylan. "I'm heading out for meetings soon anyway." She nodded gratefully. "The manager asked me to inform all guests about our annual charity drive this week. If you have any clothing you'd like to donate, just leave it in the hall with one of these tags." She handed him a small paper tag with "donation" printed in bold letters. "Sure thing." Rylan accepted the tag, already calculating which threadbare t-shirts he could finally part with back home. After she left, he finished repacking, placed his suitcase beside the bed, and headed out for his meetings. The day stretched into a marathon of presentations and client dinners. By the time he returned to his room, exhaustion had settled deep in his bones. The clock read 11:38 p.m. when he fumbled with his keycard. The hallway lights flickered overhead as he pushed open the door, his mind already drifting toward sleep. It took several seconds to register what was wrong. His suitcase was gone. Panic rising, Rylan searched the entire room, checking under the bed and in the closet. Nothing. He dialed the front desk. "Front desk? How may I assist you?" A cheerful voice answered. "My suitcase is missing from my room." "Your room number, sir?" 4112. The typing of keys filled the brief silence.
"Mr. Bennett, is that correct?" "Yes, that's me." More typing. "I don't see any notes about maintenance or cleaning requiring... Oh." The voice faltered. "Sir, was your suitcase perhaps placed in the hallway at any point today?" Rylan's stomach dropped.
"No, it was beside my bed, inside my room." "I see."
The voice became apologetic.
"It appears there may have been a misunderstanding. We had our charity collection today, and according to our records, a suitcase was collected from outside room 412.
"But I never put it there!"
Rylan paced the room, running his free hand through his hair. "I need those clothes. I have meetings tomorrow and the day after, and—" "Sir, I completely understand. Please come down to the front desk. The manager will speak with you immediately." 20 minutes later, Rylan stood before a deeply apologetic hotel manager named Daniel, who explained that a new housekeeper had mistakenly removed the suitcase, believing it was meant for donation. "The truck already left for the distribution center hours ago," Daniel explained, his forehead creased with concern. "We've called them, but they won't process donations until tomorrow morning." "So what am I supposed to do until then?" Rylan gestured to his rumpled suit. "Sleep in this and wear it again tomorrow?" Daniel nodded grimly. "We can offer you complimentary toiletries and a robe for tonight. As for tomorrow..." He pulled out a gift card from his desk drawer. "This is a $500 gift card to Pinewood Mall. It's the only shopping center in town. They open at 9 a.m. We'll also provide a full refund for tonight's stay and cover your entire visit, of course." Rylan accepted the card, too tired to argue further. "And my suitcase?" "We'll do everything possible to retrieve it tomorrow. If we can't..." Daniel hesitated. "We'll cover the cost of the lost items as well.
I'm truly sorry for this inconvenience, Mr. Bennett.
Back in his room, Rylan hung his suit jacket carefully over the desk chair and loosened his tie. The situation was far from ideal, but he'd survived worse. Tomorrow, he'd buy some new clothes, finish his meetings, and hopefully recover his suitcase before heading home. He drifted to sleep, trying to remember exactly what he'd packed, mentally cataloging each item as his consciousness faded. Morning arrived with no miraculous return of his belongings. After showering, Rylan grimaced as he pulled on yesterday's shirt and suit pants. The front desk provided directions to Pinewood Mall, a 15-minute walk from the hotel. The mall, when he arrived, was smaller than he expected. Much smaller. Coming from Chicago, Rylan was accustomed to sprawling retail complexes with endless options. Pinewood Mall consisted of a single floor with perhaps 20 stores total, many of them local boutiques rather than national chains. He scanned the directory, looking for men's clothing stores. His heart sank as he realized there was only one option. Hank's Outdoor and Casual, which appeared to specialize in hunting gear and rugged workwear, judging by the window display of camouflage and flannel.
You've got to be kidding me,
he muttered, approaching the store. A sign on the door stopped him cold.
Closed for renovations until Thursday.
Today was Monday. Rylan checked his watch. His first meeting started in 2 hours, and he refused to show up in day-old clothes that already smelled faintly of yesterday's nervous sweat. He walked the perimeter of the mall, desperately searching for alternatives. A small kiosk selling graphic t-shirts caught his eye, but the designs, featuring either hunting slogans or crude jokes, weren't remotely appropriate for business meetings. The department store at the far end turned out to sell primarily housewares and children's clothing. 45 minutes later, Rylan stood in the center of the mall, the weight of reality settling on his shoulders. There was literally nowhere in this town to buy professional men's clothing. He pulled out his phone to check if ride-sharing could get him to a neighboring city, but the nearest options were over an hour away. "You look lost." Rylan turned to find an elderly security guard watching him with amusement. "I need clothes for business meetings. Professional clothes." The guard scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Hank's is closed for renovations." "I noticed." "Nearest men's store would be in Westfield."
"But that's a good drive."
Rylan checked the time again. "I don't have that kind of time. Is there anything here? Anything at all?" The guard shrugged. "Well, there's Bella's Boutique, Threads and Things, and Marlene's. They're all women's stores, though." A desperate idea formed in Rylan's mind. Do any of them sell basics? Plain things? Marlene's probably has the most conservative stuff. It's down at the end, past the food court. Thanking the guard, Rylan hurried toward Marlene's, a modestly sized store with mannequins in the window wearing business attire. Women's business attire, but professional nonetheless. He hesitated at the entrance, then squared his shoulders and walked in. A middle-aged woman with a warm smile approached. "Good morning. Can I help you find something?" Rylan felt his face flush. There's been a mix-up with my luggage. I need something professional to wear to meetings today, and the men's store is closed." Understanding dawned in her eyes. "Oh, you poor thing. Let me think." She surveyed him critically. "You're tall but slender. We might have some options that could work." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "I've had other customers in similar situations before. Don't worry." Relief washed over him. "Thank you. I really appreciate it." "I'm Marlene, by the way. This is my shop. Let's see what we can find." She led him through the store, occasionally holding items up against him before shaking her head and continuing. Finally, she selected a few pieces and directed him to a fitting room at the back. "Try these. They're the most adaptable items we have." Rylan closed the fitting room door and stared at the small pile of clothing. A light pink button-up blouse with minimal detailing, a gray knee-length pencil skirt, and a black fitted blazer. He picked up the blouse first, examining it critically. The cut was feminine, but not overtly so. No ruffles or frills, just a slightly different silhouette than he was used to. With no other options, he removed his wrinkled shirt and slipped on the blouse. The fabric felt softer than his usual Oxford cloth, draping differently across his shoulders. Next came the skirt, which he pulled on with some trepidation. It fit snugly around his waist and hips, falling to just above his knees. Finally, he added the blazer, which helped conceal some of the more feminine aspects of the blouse. He turned to the mirror, prepared to laugh at how ridiculous he must look. The laughter never came. Something strange happened as Rylan stared at his reflection. A long, dormant feeling stirred within him. Not humor, not embarrassment, but recognition. The person in the mirror looked right somehow. The soft pink complemented his fair skin, and the gray skirt accentuated a waistline he'd never particularly noticed before. His blonde hair, which he'd been growing out slightly longer on top, suddenly seemed to frame his face differently. His hands trembled as he smoothed down the front of the blouse. A lifetime of discomfort in his own skin. A vague, persistent sensation he'd always attributed to generalized anxiety, suddenly crystallized into perfect clarity.
"Oh,"
he whispered to his reflection. The sound barely escaped his lips, but it contained decades of realization. A knock at the door startled him. "How are we doing in there?" Marlene called. Rylan's voice caught. "I need shoes," he managed finally. "And
maybe some other things."
what size shoe do you wear in men's?"
10. That would make you about a women's 11 or 12, depending on the style. Let me see what I have.
Moments later, she returned with several options. "These black pumps have a modest heel and come in larger sizes. They're popular with my taller clients." Rylan opened the door just enough to accept the shoes, then closed it again, his heart pounding. He slipped them on, gaining perhaps 2 inches in height. The effect was transformative, elongating his legs and changing his posture subtly. He stared at the complete image in the mirror, and something clicked into place, like coming home to a house he didn't know he'd been missing. All those years of feeling uncomfortable in dress shirts and ties, of dreading formal events, of never quite feeling right in clothing that should have fit perfectly. It all made sense now. This was who he'd always been meant to be. Who she had always been meant to be. The realization didn't come as a lightning bolt, but as a gentle wave of certainty washing away decades of confusion. When she finally emerged from the fitting room, Marlene's expression was kind, but not surprised. "You look lovely," she said simply. "Very professional." "Thank you." The voice that emerged was softer than usual, though she hadn't consciously changed it. "I think I need a few more items. Perhaps another blouse? And undergarments?" Marlene nodded, immediately understanding. "Of course. Let me help you." An hour later, she left the store with 3 bags containing enough clothing for the remainder of her business trip. Another blouse in cream, a black dress,
appropriate undergarments, a second pair of shoes, and even some subtle makeup Marlene had helped her select. Standing outside the store, she realized she needed a new name to match her true self. The name came to her without hesitation. A name she'd always found beautiful, a name that felt right.
Abigail,
she whispered to herself, testing how it felt on her lips. Perfect. Abigail's first meeting was with Westridge Construction, a potential client she'd been courting for months. As she walked into the hotel conference room, she felt a curious mixture of terror and liberation. The company representatives had never met her in person before. All previous communications had been via email and conference calls. She set her portfolio on the table and arranged her materials, heart pounding. The door opened, and 2 men in suits entered.
Good morning. I'm Richard Westridge,
The older man said, extending his hand.
You must be from Bennett Analytics.
Abigail took a deep breath. Yes, Abigail Bennett. Thank you for meeting with me. If the men noticed anything unusual, they gave no indication. The meeting proceeded professionally, with Abigail presenting her company's services with a confidence that surprised her. Free from the constant, unnamed discomfort she'd always felt in business settings, she found herself more articulate and poised than ever before. By the meeting's end, Westridge was signing a preliminary agreement.
Your presentation was excellent, Ms. Bennett,
Richard said as they concluded.
I appreciate your straightforward approach.
Thank you, Mr. Westridge. I look forward to working with your team. As Abigail packed up her materials, she realized something profound. For the first time in her professional life, she had been entirely present, not distracted by discomfort, not wrapped in layers of performance, just present. Back at the hotel, the manager approached her in the lobby, clearly not recognizing her.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can I help you?
Abigail smiled.
I'm in room 412. Rylan Bennett checked in, but there was an issue with lost luggage yesterday.
Daniel's eyes widened in recognition. Mr. Bennett, I'm so sorry, I didn't... He trailed off, flustered. It's Ms. Bennett, actually. Abigail corrected gently. Abigail Bennett, and it's quite all right. Any news about my suitcase? Recovering his professionalism, Daniel nodded. Yes, we've located it at the distribution center. They're sending it back tomorrow morning. Again, I'm terribly sorry for the confusion. No need to apologize. In fact, I should thank you. At his puzzled expression, she added, Sometimes mistakes turn out to be exactly what we needed. That evening, Abigail sat on her hotel bed surrounded by her new purchases, her laptop open to a search engine. She typed, How to begin gender transition as an adult. The screen filled with resources, support groups, medical information, and personal stories. She read for hours, occasionally wiping away tears as she recognized her own experiences mirrored in others' accounts. All those years of disconnect, of feeling like she was playing a role rather than living her life, they finally made sense. She created a new email account under her new name and joined several online forums for transgender individuals. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she introduced herself, explaining her recent epiphany. Responses came quickly, welcoming and supportive. One particular comment resonated deeply. Some of us know from childhood, others discover their truth later. There's no wrong time to become who you've always been. The next morning, her old suitcase arrived while she was dressing in her new cream blouse and black pencil skirt.
Where would you like this, Ms. Bennett? The bellhop asked, wheeling in the familiar luggage.
Just leave it there, thank you. She tipped him generously. After he left, Abigail approached the suitcase slowly.
She unzipped it to find everything exactly as she'd packed it. Men's shirts, ties, slacks, and toiletries. She ran her fingers over a blue Oxford shirt she'd worn hundreds of times, feeling the familiar fabric. It seemed to belong to someone else now, artifacts from another life. She re-zipped the suitcase and slid it into the closet without removing a single item. Her final meeting of the trip went as smoothly as the first. The clients remarked on her insightful analysis and clear presentation style. One even noted, "You seem different from the person we spoke with on the conference calls, more confident."
"I feel more myself,"
Abigail replied truthfully. That afternoon, she checked out of the hotel, her new clothes packed in a shopping bag and her old suitcase rolling behind her. At the airport, she approached the check-in counter with determination.
"I need to check this bag,"
she said, lifting the old suitcase onto the scale. "Destination?" the attendant asked.
"Chicago, but—"
Abigail hesitated, then continued.
"I won't be claiming this bag. I'd like to donate it and everything inside."
The attendant looked up in surprise. "Ma'am? Is there a way to donate unclaimed luggage? Or items from it?" "Well, after a certain period, unclaimed bags go through a process and eventually many items are donated, but—"
"Perfect!"
Abigail handed over her ID, still bearing her dead name.
"This bag belongs to this person, but he no longer exists. The clothes should go to someone who needs them."
The attendant's expression softened with understanding. "I'll make a note in the system." She printed the luggage tag and attached it.
"Is there anything you need from inside before it goes?"
Abigail shook her head.
"No,
I have everything I need now."
On the flight home, Abigail made lists on her phone, people to tell, steps to take, appointments to make. The path ahead would not be simple, but for the first time, it was clear. Her apartment felt strange when she returned, familiar yet foreign, like revisiting a childhood home. She walked through each room, seeing it through new eyes. The sparse, impersonal decor suddenly made sense. She'd never invested in making this space truly hers because it had never felt like it belonged to someone real. That would change now. She spent the weekend researching therapists who specialized in gender identity issues, finding one who could see her the following week. She ordered additional clothes online, selecting items that resonated with the woman she was finally allowing herself to be. Monday arrived with the inevitable challenge of work. Abigail had decided to take a direct approach. No gradual transition at the office, no awkward halfway measures. She dressed in her new black dress with the blazer from Marlene's, applied subtle makeup following tutorials she'd studied, and styled her blonde hair as femininely as its current length allowed. Standing before her bathroom mirror, she practiced her introduction. "I'm Abigail Bennett now. I've realized I'm transgender, and I'm beginning my transition." The words felt both terrifying and liberating. The marketing firm where she worked as a data analyst was progressive in many ways, with clear non-discrimination policies. Still, theory and practice were different matters. She arrived early, hoping to speak with her direct supervisor before others arrived. Monica, her boss, was already at her desk reviewing reports when Abigail knocked on her office door. Monica looked up, momentary confusion crossing her face before recognition dawned. "Rylan? Is that—" "It's Abigail now, actually." She stepped into the office, closing the door behind her. "I've recently realized I'm transgender. This is who I truly am." Monica set down her pen. "I see." She gestured to the chair opposite her desk. "Please, sit down. Tell me what you need from me, from the company. during this transition. The conversation that followed was direct but supportive. Monica asked practical questions about name changes in the system, client communications, and bathroom access. She promised to arrange a meeting with HR to ensure all policies were properly implemented. "Thank you for trusting me with this," Monica said, as their discussion concluded.
I can't pretend to understand exactly what you're experiencing, but I respect your courage in living authentically. That means a great deal to me. Would you like me to join you when you talk to the team?
Abigail considered this. "I think I need to do it myself, but knowing you're supportive helps tremendously." The team meeting later that morning was a blur of nervous energy. Abigail stood at the front of the conference room, acutely aware of her colleagues' curious glances. "Before we begin our usual agenda, I have a personal announcement," she began, her voice steadier than she expected. "Some of you have known me as Rylan, but I'm Abigail Bennett. I've recently realized I'm transgender, and I'm beginning my transition." The room remained silent for a moment before Kevin from graphic design spoke up.
"Thanks for telling us, Abigail. That took guts."
Others joined in with expressions of support, questions about preferred pronouns, she, her, and assurances that they were there if she needed anything. Not everyone seemed entirely comfortable. A few shifted awkwardly in their seats, but no one was openly hostile. By day's end, Abigail's email signature had been updated, and the office manager had ordered a new nameplate for her desk. Small steps, but significant ones. The weeks that followed brought a whirlwind of changes. Therapy sessions helped Abigail process her decades of gender dysphoria and plan her transition path. She began the legal process of changing her name and gender markers on official documents. Medical consultations led to her starting hormone therapy, a step that brought both anxiety and profound relief. 3 months after the fateful hotel mix-up, Abigail's blonde hair had grown out enough for a proper feminine styling. She sat in the salon chair, watching as the stylist transformed her growing locks into a soft, layered cut that framed her face beautifully. "What do you think?" the stylist asked, turning the chair to face the mirror. Abigail's eyes filled with tears. "It's perfect. It's me." That evening, she received an unexpected email from Marlene's boutique. "Dear Abigail, I hope this message finds you well. You may not remember me, but I helped you find emergency clothing a few months ago when your luggage was lost. The hotel manager mentioned your name change when I saw him at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and I wanted to reach out. I've been thinking about you and hoping your journey has been going well. If you're ever back in our little town, please stop by the shop. I'd love to hear how you're doing. Warmest regards. Marlene." Abigail replied immediately, updating Marlene on her transition progress and expressing profound gratitude for the kindness shown to a confused stranger that transformative day. "You didn't just sell me clothes," she wrote. "You helped me find myself." As spring turned to summer, Abigail's body began responding to hormone therapy. Subtle changes appeared: softer skin, the beginning of breast development, a slight redistribution of fat that softened her facial features. Each change was a validation, her outer self slowly aligning with her inner truth. Not every aspect of transition was smooth. Her parents struggled with the news, her father particularly resistant to using her new name. Some friends drifted away, uncomfortable with the change. One client requested a different account manager, citing vague concerns about consistency. Yet for each loss, there seemed to be unexpected gains. Her younger sister became a fierce advocate. New friendships formed, often with people who appreciated her authenticity. Several clients actually commented that her presentations had improved, noting a new confidence and presence.
"You're glowing,"
a coworker remarked one afternoon.
"Happiness looks good on you."
1 year to the day after the hotel mishap, Abigail returned to the small town that had changed her life. She booked a room at the same hotel, requesting number 412 specifically. Daniel, still the manager, recognized her immediately this time.
"Ms. Bennett, welcome back. We've reserved your room as requested."
"Thank you. Is the charity drive happening again this year?" He nodded.
"Next week, actually."
"Excellent. I have some donations to contribute." After settling in, Abigail made her way to Pinewood Mall. Marlene's boutique looked exactly as she remembered, though she viewed it with entirely different eyes now. The bell jingled as she entered. Marlene looked up from the register, confusion briefly crossing her face before recognition dawned.
"Abigail, is that you?"
"It's me." Marlene hurried around the counter to embrace her.
"Look at you! You're radiant!" "Thanks to you, in no small part." "Nonsense. I just provided some fabric and thread."
"You've done the real work."
They spent an hour catching up, Abigail sharing the milestones of her transition, while Marlene listened attentively. "I have something for you," Abigail said finally, reaching into her purse. She withdrew a small, wrapped package and handed it to Marlene. Inside was a framed photograph of Abigail in her office, confidently presenting to a room full of executives. She wore a pink blouse, remarkably similar to the first one she'd purchased at Marlene's. "My assistant took this last month. I'm now the youngest director in my company's history." Abigail smiled. "I wanted you to see who I've become." Marlene studied the photograph, tears welling in her eyes. "Do you know what I see here? I see someone who was always there, just waiting for permission to exist." She placed the frame on her counter. "I'll keep this here to remind me that sometimes the most important thing we can do for someone is simply make space for them to discover themselves." Before leaving town, Abigail visited the charity center that had inadvertently received her old suitcase. She made a substantial donation and shared her story with the director, who was moved to tears.
"We never know how our actions might change someone's life,"
the director said.
"Even our mistakes can become someone else's miracle."
On her final evening, Abigail stood before the mirror in room 412, the place where her journey had begun. The woman who gazed back at her now was fully realized, confident in her blonde hair styled in soft waves, her pink blouse, a higher-end version of that first crucial purchase, and the person she had become. She thought about the mistaken donation that had set everything in motion. One small error had cracked open the door to her authentic self, allowing her to finally step through. Sometimes, she reflected, we need to lose what doesn't fit before we can find what does. Her old suitcase, with its contents designed for a person who never truly existed, had been the weight holding her beneath the surface. Losing it had allowed her to finally rise and breathe. Abigail smiled at her reflection, not the uncertain, questioning smile of that first transformative moment, but the serene expression of someone who had found her way home. The hotel's mistake hadn't just been a catalyst for change. It had been the key to the life she was always meant to live.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!